So one of the things we've heard from a lot of our students who are struggling this semester, maybe feeling a little bit overwhelmed, or maybe did have some warning grades, are that they are struggling to stay engaged, stay present when they're on a Zoom classroom, in a Zoom lecture, etc. They really struggle how to participate, how to engage with their professor, with other students in the classroom, especially for those who are all remote this semester. And so just some different things to help us all navigate, the utilizing of Zoom, since we're even doing it tonight. Some of the key things that we've put together here, some different things to mention. One thing that you really need to do is you just need to create a space for work, for school, and then the rest of your space for your living area. And I realize that in a dorm room, you're a little bit limited, that your desk might be your designated work area. So it's very important, it's very key that you don't have class on Zoom in your bed. Your bed should be for sleeping, relaxing, those types of activities. So the first thing that we stress with students is get up, get dressed, be ready to be present and be engaged in your Zoom. If that means that you need to leave your dorm room, that might be a good idea. You could go out into a common area in your dorm. You could go outside. You could go to the library. The library has spaces. There are different areas in the different buildings. I spoke to a freshman last week, and she said that she actually, for her one class, her FYS class, she comes over to Humanities and sits outside the classroom. There are tables on the balcony, so when it's nice, she sits outside on the balcony of Humanities, and when the weather's not as nice, she sits right inside. That way, she's close to her classroom, she's in the classroom building, and she has the opportunity to see her professor every class period, as she sees her professor then when she leaves the classroom. We actually have spaces that you can reserve in Humanities on the first floor in our academic support center. We have 3 different rooms that you can reserve space if you want to bring your own computer, your own laptop. We also have computers with webcams that you can reserve, and you can reserve them for one time, or you can reserve them daily and weekly. So that way that can become your classroom space, your workspace. If you need to get, be outside of your dorm space, because we do realize that you are somewhat confined in there. It kind of limits you. But when you create a workspace that's separate from your living space, then you're not always at work. You're not always at school. If you're doing school and living and all the things in the same space, you never really get a break. You're in that same environment. And there's a reason that a lot of people go to work. They go to a church service. It's because we have different places, different spaces for different activities. And so right now, this fall, we have to be a little bit extra creative with some of those opportunities. And so if that's not something where those resources are located, come see us. We can help you out with getting you into a space that can work for you to go to your classes and be in a classroom space. Something else you definitely want to do in your Zoom classes is take notes. Okay, you can actively take notes while you are listening to your Zoom lecture. And I don't know about you, but it's difficult for me to sit on a chair or definitely on my bed and balance my laptop, balance my notebook, or even to type notes while I'm watching a Zoom lecture. So I have to write, or I need to have 2 devices kind of going on simultaneously. So you want to use some kind of flat surface desk where all of your things can be level and supportive. We also recommend to students, even when they're in the classroom, when they're in a live classroom, sometimes you have to stand up. There are actual standing desks that people can buy. You can create a standing desk just by raising your laptop on a pile of books, or maybe you have a bookshelf on top of your desk, but you can actually stand. Standing is actually good for our bodies. You can move around, and that can help keep you more engaged. Something else that you can do is you can be prepared for that Zoom lecture. Try to preview your material just like you would if you were going to class. So maybe read the book, look at the PowerPoints ahead of time, and come up with some things that you see that you're unfamiliar with. Come up with at least 2 questions for yourself that you want to be able to either answer as you're listening and engaging with the lecture, or questions that you're going to be able to ask the professor, ask the class during lecture through the chat box by raising your hand or asking at the end of class. That way you have a goal in mind, something you want to take away from that lecture, rather than just being passive and just, sitting by. What do you want to get out of that lecture? Because remember, your time is valuable, so you want to make sure that your time pays off from the time that you're investing in those lectures. And so sometimes, whether you're in class or you're participating on Zoom, a lot of professors are now recording all of their lectures and posting them in their Canvas page. So you have the opportunity to go back and rewatch and replay any lecture you want. So if there's any times where maybe you found yourself kind of disengaging or not really getting all of what the professor said, you have the opportunity to go back and rewatch those lectures at your leisure. You can fast forward to the parts that you want to listen to again. You can look at the recorded transcripts. So along with each Zoom recording, Zoom then takes that lecture and translates it into a transcript. So everything is typed out for you. So you can compare the lecture and the transcription. It even has the minutes and the time where it recorded those words, and you can go back and rewatch them. So you might listen to something 2 or 3 times if that's what it takes to get all of the information from that. And again, just trying to think about some different ways that we can be successful. Some of our classes, there are a lot of different parts to them. Some of them are all remote, some of them are hybrid, where we're in class 1 day a week, remote 1 day a week on Zoom, and some of our classes are flipped classes. And so for some students, this is a new concept. And so what we mean by a flipped classroom is that the professor sends you the lectures in a recorded format, and it's your job in your study time to listen to the lectures, take notes, and then be prepared in class to solve problems, work through scenarios, kind of work through the homework. So it's literally flip-flop. You do the lecture and the learning kind of on your own with the professor's materials and thoughts, and then in class you kind of do the work. So that way the professor's there on site, ready to help you work through those scenarios, discuss them, complete those assignments. And so to be successful for that type of situation, you need to be taking notes on your own while you're watching those lectures. You can press pause, as many times as you want, which is nice because sometimes our attention kind of wanes and fades during an hour and a half lecture anyway. So you can press pause, take breaks. You can work it into short clips. And again, come up with a goal for yourself. What questions do you have after watching that lecture? We all have questions if we're watching someone else's lecture. If we didn't, we could turn around and teach the class, and most of us are not capable of doing that after watching one lecture. So there are probably always some concepts that we're going to have that we need to have further clarification or more explanation about. And then again, you're going to be doing the work, solving the problems, working through the scenarios in class. So you can ask your questions then. You may also have other questions that creep up. But if you haven't watched the lectures and taken the notes, you're really not going to have an idea of what's going on in class in those work scenarios. You could do the same things for hybrid and remote classes. We're doing the reading ahead of time, taking the notes, watching some videos that your professor posts. But again, you have to prioritize. You have to know what's important. Where do you need to spend your time and doing what each day? And recognize the value of your time. You're spending a lot of money to attend college. Your time is precious, okay? You want to have enough time to get adequate sleep, get your schoolwork done, and also have some me time. Do the hobbies, the things that you want to be doing. We want you to thrive, not just survive. But again, that comes from preparing before class, so you can be actively engaged in the class, and then you want to review immediately after class. Okay, because again, these are just all marketable skills that you can use in any job. It doesn't matter what your major is. These are things that can kind of carry over into other areas of your life outside your academic world. And I think that's what some of these ladies have already discovered, that some of the things that we're doing not only have to do with their majors, but it carries over into other activities, whether they have clubs, sports, a job, a sorority. You can kind of apply those different skills, the different areas that you have going on.